You can bet on it. Everything you need to know about the Supreme Court's decision that will allow legalized sports betting in all 50 states. The Rockets were built to beat the Warriors. Stephen A. Smith on the importance of winning Game 1 for Houston. And inside the Celtics' game plan for stopping LeBron in Game 1, why it may not work for Game 2. Plus, afternoon baseball. Full highlights and analysis of Cubs-Braves. This is SportsCenter.
All right, now they're in the way.
Here's Sage Steele and Kevin Nagandi.
Hey there, and welcome to SportsCenter on a Monday many have been betting on. We finally get the Rockets and Warriors showdown for the West.
Forget about them. Finally get Nagandi and Steele back together after all this time. Never knew it. Here we go. Yeah, Rockets, Warriors. It only took a huge trade, 8 players, a draft pick, a bunch of cash as well, to bring Chris Paul to Houston. And really, the rest is history. Western Conference Finals Game 1. Here is what is at stake. The defending champion Warriors trying to reach the finals for the 4th straight year. How impressive is that? Well, only 4 teams in NBA history have done that, and the only other Western Conference team to do so was the Lakers. That was way back in the early 1980s. On the other side, the Rockets built their entire season around this series. They won a franchise record 65 games during the regular season. In context, 20 other teams have won at least 65, and 16 of those 20 have made it to the NBA Finals. So no pressure. Get this, though. Statistically, this could be the best offensive head-to-head matchup in NBA postseason history. Both teams averaged over 112 points per 100 possessions during the regular season, and this is the first time 2 teams with those numbers have met in the playoffs. While the Warriors are favored in the series, the Rockets are favored in Game 1 tonight. If the line holds, currently Houston 1.5-point favorites, it'll be the first time Golden State is an underdog in a game when Kevin Durant and Steph Curry are in the lineup. So everybody's ready for this, including the presumed MVP this season, James Harden.
In order to be the best, you got to beat the best, you know. And so we know what's at stake, we know what's in front of us, and we're ready for it.
We're in an unfamiliar situation, starting off on the road, but it's a new challenge for us, and we have appropriate fear, and that's when we played our best. We're on the edge, and we're locked in.
You know, genuinely respect what they offer as a challenge, and know we have to play our best. We can't just show up at this stage in the season.
Competed all season long to get here, and now it's all about Game 1. You know what I mean? We're going to focus on us as we have all season long.
You always hear the old cliche about the series starts when the visiting team wins. If you can do that in Game 1, it truly changes the series, and obviously that's our goal, and we'll see what happens.
And Stephen A. Smith joins us now. Stephen A., it is finally here, the showdown we've all been waiting for. Now, you go back a year ago, James Harden melted down. Rockets didn't make it to the conference finals. A year later, they are here with Chris Paul and home court advantage against the defending champs. What do you need to see from Houston tonight to make you a believer?
Well, first of all, I'm already a believer because I know they've got the talent and I know they have the leadership, not just with Mike D'Antoni, who's obviously brilliant offensively. He's my coach of the year. But in a superstar point guard, that is Chris Paul. He knows how to run a show. He's a floor general extraordinaire. We all know this. And not only that, he's effective off the ball as well, which is one of the reasons he departed from L.A. to Houston. Because as he told me, he wanted the opportunity to show that he could play off the ball and not constantly have the ball in his hands for every single play. And obviously with James Harden, who he was able to spell for Chris Paul in terms of ball handling responsibilities, and that's made them both better. But in this particular series, I need to see James Harden be the superstar in the league MVP that I know him to be. He should win the league MVP award this year. I fully expect it. He averaged 30. This kid can do those kind of things, and he needs to do that against the Golden State Warriors because the Golden State Warriors are rife with superstars, from Steph to KD, to a lesser degree, Klay Thompson, and obviously Draymond Green. If you are the Houston Rockets, the supplementary parts that you have are good enough. But Chris Paul and James Harden has to carry the day, and Chris Paul is not going to be able to do but so much if James Harden doesn't do his job. You want to be the league MVP, you want to be recognized as a superstar and a champion in this league, you've got to show up in moments in series like this. And James Harden is on the clock, but I believe he will answer the bell.
Meantime, those Warriors are in an unfamiliar spot, Stephen A. Underdogs tonight and on the road to start a series for the first time in the Steve Kerr era. But otherwise, this is basically the same team. What is Kerr's biggest challenge going to be?
Well, you know what the thing is that you're going to have to, pace of play is going to be everything. And the reason why I say that is because if you remember in Game 1, New Orleans, when Golden State would play in New Orleans, the one thing that Klay Thompson complained about was the pace, with Rondo pushing the ball up and throwing alley-oops to Anthony Davis and Drew Holiday helping him along those lines. Klay Thompson was talking about how a little fatigued they were. Well, guess what? The pace of play that the New Orleans Pelicans implemented is nothing compared to what Mike D'Antoni is going to try to throw at you. We are talking about a coach that, at least in the past, absolutely positively had no problem with his players letting an opposing team score on a fast break or what have you, as opposed to hacking and fouling them and sending to the free throw line, because he said it disrupted pace. It's not important that you stop them. What is important is that you keep them running, because they're not going to be able to hang with you in the end. That's his mentality. So if you're Mike D'Antoni and those are the Houston Rockets, you're the Golden State Warriors, you know this is what he's going to throw at you, and you have to be ready and conditioned to answer the call. That's the biggest thing with Golden State, the pace of play. They've got to be able to keep up and run with Houston.
Stephen A. Smith, can you tell he's ready? Thanks for getting us set for Game 1.
No doubt.
As the James Harden, Chris Paul led the way in their first season together. They got to the conference finals, but what do we expect from them? What should we expect as they try to get to the next level and take on the defending champs? That's coming up.
Sage, after months of waiting for a decision, it finally happened. The United States Supreme Court struck down a federal law that bans sports gambling, giving the states the green light to legalize sports betting. New Jersey had fought the 1992 law for years and plans to quickly join Nevada. Other states expected to follow include Delaware, Mississippi, New York, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. Doug Gassarian has much more on details on what this decision now means.
Jersey can now bet on jerseys. New Jersey will accept in-person in Atlantic City and at horse tracks. Other states can parlay the Supreme Court ruling into a giant payday. But in what capacity? It varies. Every state must first pass a state law. Some much further along, like New Jersey, which passed a state law in 2012 and is ready to issue gambling licenses. Other states have bills centered on technology, allowing for residents to wager from anywhere, like a bar, using an app. In all, 20 states have introduced some form of legislation, but Mississippi, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, New York, and Delaware are right behind Jersey. The rest, not as close. So who's booking these wagers? Established properties like Caesars and Harrah's, which already operate casinos throughout the country, offering slots and table games, may decide to add sports bets, since they already take bets in Vegas and thus have the necessary software. But other non-Vegas properties may outsource sports wagering to a third party that has the necessary infrastructure. So why bother with all this? These states are sick of being on the sidelines. They want in the game. Nevada sportsbooks won a record $249 million last year alone, and an estimated $150 billion is illegally bet offshore and with local bookies. Sports betting as we know it is over. And now the four major pro sports must decide how to get a piece of the action or just keep providing the action.
Reaction from the major leagues, from the NFL will start. Spokesperson Brian McCarthy releasing a statement. Congress has long recognized the potential harms posed by sports betting to the integrity of sporting contests and the public confidence in these events. Given that history, we intend to call on Congress again, this time to enact framework for legalized sports betting. For much more on this story, let's bring in ESPN legal analyst Ryan Smith. And this is a big story, a story that we've been waiting for months, Ryan. What options are out there for a league like the NFL after this ruling?
Well, Kevin, they've got basically two options. A, work with states to protect their interests, or B, lobby Congress to get a federal law in place that governs the entire country on sports betting. The big thing about this decision is now that the federal law is overturned, states will make their own rules. Leagues have to go to each of the states and work out whether it's a royalty fee like the NBA wants or protecting its interests, like making sure nothing happens to the game as a result of the bets. But for the NFL and others, I think the goal is still to get Congress to make a new law that governs everybody so they don't have to go to every single state.
All right, as for regulations, what's the concern? A player may throw a game to make money off betting in a state like New Jersey.
I think it's still a major concern. New Jersey tried to guard against it with respect to college players by saying you can't bet on New Jersey college games or college sports teams playing outside of New Jersey. But there's not a strong federal law prohibiting this sort of secretive manipulating of sports teams. There's small laws to do it, but no major penalties. I think that's going to be one thing a lot of states are thinking about when they try to put in different regulations on what to do. And, of course, there's Congress in all this. Can you get Congress to address it and wrap it all up?
Yeah, and hours after the Supreme Court decision, New Jersey lawmakers have introduced legislation that would regulate and tax sports betting. So we'll see what happens, the after effects, and coming up later on here on SportsCenter, we'll take a look at the NBA's version of this decision. Ryan, thank you.
Speaking of the NBA, so Eastern Conference LeBron and the Cavs, they faced playoff deficits before, but after getting blown out yesterday in Game 1 against Boston, does this feel different? How vulnerable are they? We're back.
I'm the wrong one to bet against now that I'm in my element. JB, letter and veteran, it's whatever, man, I'm crushing them. Wake up in the morning, put my game face on, the main event, the man in the mirror and me. Let's get it on.
That escalated quickly. Before the series, Marcus Morris said he could defend LeBron, and he quickly backed it up in Game 1. Cavaliers averaging less than a point per possession when LeBron was guarded by Morris, with LeBron going just 2 for 6 from the floor. Also a sloppy game. LeBron had 7 turnovers, most in a contest this postseason. The Celtics taking advantage, scoring 14 points off the 7 mistakes on 5 of 6 shooting. Also the first time all season LeBron had more turnovers than field goals. And here's another big story. The Celtics dominated Kevin Love inside. Al Horford 7 for 8 shooting with Love as his primary defender, including 5 for 5 when he was 5 feet or closer to the hoop. Not good. Listen to Ty Lue about a potential Game 2 adjustment with a guy named Tristan Thompson.
Definitely something we have to weigh. And we waited before the series started, but, we won 7 out of 8, and we weren't going to adjust until, someone beat us. And we had played well with that lineup, and it got us to this point. So, yes, we have to weigh that decision. Looking at the statistics over the last 3 years of at least 30 possessions, out of all the guys that guarded Al Horford, Tristan is number 1 in the league defending Al Horford. So that's a good thing to know. And you guys have a great day.
Embrace the numbers. Over the last 3 seasons, Thompson has held Horford at just 0.15 points per possession in head-to-head matchups. That's the fewest points per possession by Horford against any defender in that span. In Game 2 tomorrow. Great to have NBA insider Brian Windhorst with us. And everything's about matchups and adjustments. What's your first thought after hearing Ty Lue talk about the possibility of Tristan Thompson being inserted into the starting lineup for Game 2?
Well, I'll have you know, Kevin, I checked Ty Lue's math with our wonderful people at ESPN Stats and Information, and I'm here to report he is correct. Per 100 possessions, Al Horford has struggled or scored less against Tristan Thompson than any other defender in the NBA. And so whether or not he steps out on the court to start the game or whether he's just playing a lot more, I expect that to be a major matchup move for Ty Lue for tomorrow night. Al Horford was the premium part of the Celtics game plan. They attacked Kevin Love in pick and rolls. They ran 41 pick and rolls aimed at Kevin Love and Tristan Thompson. Most of those aimed at Kevin Love and most of those with Al Horford. So the Cavs have an opportunity there to try to shut that off and try to make a maneuver that they hope can get them off to a better start. But let's also be honest here. While we talk about matchups, the Cavs need LeBron James to have a great game in Game 2. He had arguably his worst game of the season, certainly his worst game of the postseason in Game 1. Obviously, that's not going to work going forward.
Looking forward to that matchup, of course, tomorrow and seeing what we can get from LeBron James in Game 2 as a rebound game. Now, the big story, of course, is NBA Commissioner Adam Silver remaining strong about the idea of sports gambling now that it's legalized by the Supreme Court here, as long as it's properly regulated. Now, owners are weighing in. Listen to what Mark Cuban of the Mavericks had to say about this decision.
I think everybody who owns the top 4 professional sports teams just basically saw the value of their team double at least. It could finally become fun to go to a baseball game again. All that downtime. A basketball game, football, it's easy to see how you'll have fun at the arena, at the stadium, and while you're watching, I think this is something that benefits everybody, even tangentially associated with sports.
Cuban always looking at the big picture and the value of his franchise moving forward. That's what a businessman does. But as a commissioner, when I tell you about Adam Silver backing this decision as long as it's properly regulated, what's behind the NBA and sports legalized betting?
Money, Kevin. Yeah, the NBA can't own and operate their own casino. But, boy, can they profit off the ancillary deals. Number one, just think of the sponsorships. Those jersey ads that you see on their jerseys this season, those were designed for casinos. I know that they have tire companies and software firms on them now, but eventually that's the prime real estate to somebody who wants to make an in-game bet. Who am I going to use to bet? Whatever.com right here. Not to mention, advertisements around the edges of the arena. And then obviously the NBA has been out there lobbying for the last 6 months. Even as they were in this lawsuit fighting against New Jersey, they were out there for the last 6 months lobbying state to state to state. Why? Because when sports gambling was legalized, they want a cut, what they call a royalty of the action. So if you go and put down $100 on the Warriors to win tonight, they wanted $1 of that to go immediately into their pockets and to the NFL and NHL, etc. I don't think they're going to get that much, but my guess is they're going to get a little taste of it. And over the course of the next 10, 15, 20 years, this could be a decision that puts billions of dollars into the NBA, which is why Mark Cuban was smiling today.
Yeah, it could be a windfall for franchises everywhere of the major pro teams in America. Great to have Brian Windhorst with us here on SportsCenter.